This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And on this week's episode, he's taking a look at the beta of milsim shooter Arena Breakout Infinite, a game that allows quite a bit of customization.
Now, I'm more tolerant of accessories on things like ARs, because that's where we are. Oh my lord. 4 laser modules.
Well, I figure if I can't hit them with bullets, I can at least blind them or give them a migraine or something. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more of Jonathan, and let us know what future games you'd like to see us cover in the comment section down below. Right, over to Jonathan.
If I somehow fail to identify what they were going for here, they've called it an M870, which is actually, legally speaking, a bit surprising. First impression, that trigger guard is very thick. Overall, it looks okay. There are some really bizarre attachments being messed with here. Or is it I who is being messed with? I glimpsed a Magpul style stock there. We've gone for a Fab Defense pistol grip there. Oh god, and now an M4 buffer tube. No, get that off. And a blue laser. I've definitely seen more cursed shotguns. The cycling animation is at least consistent with that offset grip. I mean, it might look like that all the time, but it feels like it's a result of these bizarre angled grip.
If you notice the TV on the side of the firing range, it'll show you when my rounds are piercing the armor. So between buckshot, flechette, armor piercing slugs, similar to Tarkov and other games like that.
Okay.
Will model armor penetration. I think the shotgun rounds really showcase the difference in penetration possibilities.
No, the whole armor penetration modeling thing is always good to see. But yeah, there's a giant CRT monitor that somehow has AI in it that knows what your gun is doing to the target. I don't know why they didn't just make that part of the HUD. But hey, this is not Game Design Expert Reacts. Okay, well that looks somewhat like the Galil ACE. Without stopping to Google some reference pics here, something doesn't look right about that lower receiver, that sort of additional polymer on the lower there. It has the left side charging handle with the dust cover that slides up and down to cover the hole. Yeah, so it's relatively subtle, but the angle of the magwell and the sculpting of that low receiver is quite different to the real thing, unless there's some new model that I've not seen yet. And the way it interfaces with, as far as I know, the real ACE has standard AK style upper, which is just the receiver. There isn't an upper and a lower receiver on an AK. And the polymer extra lower, as it were, is butted into and sort of semi-wraps onto that receiver. It doesn't, whereas this is kind of part and part. It looks like a genuine lower receiver. Those reinforcing ribs on the top cover, I don't recognize either, and I don't see why you'd need them. We've had 60 years, I think, of Kalashnikov type or derivative weapons with top covers. Yeah, some have been ribbed, but not like that. Speaking of ribbed top covers, we have an AK-74 here with a ribbed top cover. Now, early 74s did have that because they're essentially following the AKM mold, and it's a 74N because it has the sight rail on the left side. And we've had an upgrade here to the 74MR, where it's the black polymer upper and lower handguard with Picatinny rail on it as well, which the 74M didn't originally have. And of course, we have to delete the top cover at some point because everyone loves to see the guts of an AK clattering away. This is the infamous 100-round half moon giant AK mag, which is a real thing that was invented. Wouldn't fit, I don't think, on a 74 unless someone has come up with a new version modified to fit. But looking at this, how would you clip that in place? There's a whacking great muzzle brake / cob thing on the front. You've got the big front sight post to get over. And then when we put the big key mod handguard on there, and we're getting really cursed here, there's just no way you could attach and detach the mag. I want to see this thing reloaded in engine, please. That's just horrifying. absolutely fudging that reload completely there. Just ignore it. Who cares what's happening at the front? If anyone's silly enough to kick their rifle out like this, they deserve some clipping. But yeah, it seemed to have some fairly crazy recoil, considering all the extra weight would help this thing soak up felt recoil. And the 74 brake is just superb. Very few weapons are as controllable in automatic fire as the 74, 100, anything fitted with a brake like that. There are AR brakes that are as effective. Downside, lots of noise, lots of flash. Okay, F2000, not the FS2000. S is for semi-automatic. This thing is select fire. There's something very wrong with the optic and cover completely off the gun and no sights, but that's down to the player, of course. The cover for the optic is the wrong shape. So the outside isn't too bad, but the sort of POV there is really quite different, as you can see. It's not semi-hollow with two big screws. It's just flat polymer. It also has iron sights or plastic sights built into the top of the cover, which are better than nothing. They're like combat pistol sights, and if your optic in here somehow gets broken or loses zero, you've got something to roughly aim with. The sights give it these two big swellings here, which are missing from the game version. This sort of sweeping curve here is quite different as well. The rest of the gun is good, although the chunky plastic foregrip is a wrong shape as well. Do you have an extended magazine in that thing?
There's a 50 round magazine available, but I was just rocking with the normal 30.
That's supposed to be a 30 round mag. Well,
yeah.
If you can see this in the gun viewer, and then you see this, that 30 round mag is almost half buried in the gun. It's a very tall gun. There's far too much magazine sticking out of that, and it's a weird shape as well. That's what a 30 round AR mag looks like. That thing is too deep and the wrong curvature as well. It makes the whole thing look really unbalanced and weird.
I'm not sure if it's because the game's in beta currently, but the animation was just tearing out the magazine. But I believe you said before, for the F2000, you're sort of pushing up on the button next to the magazine and then pulling.
It's modeled correctly as far as the mag catch goes, but as you say, the player character is just ripping the mag out, which oddly you can't do. You have to push up, pull out.
So I'm guessing, again, maybe it's a beta issue, but they've not animated that functionality yet, so they need the magazine sticking out extra for just the default basic animation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they fudged it for that reason. But that magazine is too deep front to back to even fit in the hole it's currently in. So that's a problem as well. It's an odd beast, this one. Good, slow, chugging rate of fire. It's correct for the M3. It's an M3A1 because there's no crank handle to cock it. It's just the finger. And you've got your safety / dust cover flapping in the breeze there. Maybe a bit too much. Mind you, this is present day, and this is a Second World War firearm. So there's every chance that it's worn a bit. Oh, good grief.
Surely that scope's gonna leave a bruise on your eye at that point.
Not unless you put your eye on the cut, which you'd be mad to, because it wouldn't give you a proper sight picture anyway. So the recoil on this is going to be so minimal, especially with the extra steel and glass on top. You're not going to get the sniper's eye problem with this, I don't think. Equally, it's not massively helpful for this firearm. I'm quite enjoying how much the crosshairs are jumping around like crazy. You have to float your head behind the scope because there's no cheap rest that can save you here. But again, this is player choice, and you have chosen to mess with me, so... That's a pretty good looking M4.
I feel like in games like this that have, an incredible amount of modularity, they accentuate the recoil on the default weapons just so there's a driving force behind finding all these extra pieces and putting them on your gun so you can feel a tangible difference.
I'm sure that's the case. And they seem to do that, either deliberately or not, by having there effectively be no contact with the shoulder. If the muzzle's rising as much as it is in a lot of these games, the butt would be dropping in the shoulder. And even if you only rest the butt somewhere, lightly on your shoulder, it can't just move down. So the muzzle can't really the whole thing can move up if you're really holding it badly, but the whole weapon can't just pivot like that. It's a very video gamey thing that happens quite a bit. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. The barrel length looks about right. It's not been copied from a 16-inch barrel civilian rifle. Oh, this is going a bit crazy. Now, I'm more tolerant of accessories on things like ARs, because that's where we are. Oh, my lord. 4 laser modules.
Well, I figure if I can't hit them with bullets, I can at least, like, blind them or give them a migraine or something.
I wouldn't recommend shining any laser device into anyone's eye, but these are definitely not dazzling level lasers. 4 of them at once might be dazzling enough, I don't know. Let's not try it out.
You can see there under sustained fire, my hearing starts to go because I'm not wearing any ear protection or headphones or anything. It doesn't cause any lasting damage, but it's a nice gameplay thing that, you know, under rapid fire, you will start to lose a bit of hearing.
It'd be a bit of a downer if it was realistic and it was just completely cumulative, and the more you leveled up, the more deaf you became. Oh, Lord. What is that?
It's supposed to be a Mini 14.
Ugh. It isn't, though. It looks like a 22 replica of a Mini 14. The magazine's too tiny for 5.56. That's the biggest issue with it. It's a very Mini 14.
Are those iron sights accurate? Because there's some of the, I'd say, worse in the game, honestly. Especially the rear sight. Like, I was just using the front sight. The rear sight seemed pretty pointless in game, at least.
I have never seen a rear sight like that, other than in a video game, like some sort of sci-fi or apocalyptic game where they make, no, it doesn't help align. The human eye is very good at aligning a post with a circle. That's why so many sights work that way. Alternatively, a notch or a U notch or a V, all of those work because you have an apex or a center point to align everything with. 2 lumps left and right do absolutely nothing. Well, not nothing. I mean, they'll help you level the weapon in the shoulder, I guess, but yeah, they don't make any sense. This is almost like a 1022 combined with a Mini 14, both Ruger products. There are sort of modern tactical-esque takes on the Mini 14 that I think this is probably based on, or at least this version is, with the handguard and the stock. This is looking more like one. The one with the wooden stock looked like no Mini 14 I've ever seen or held. It's a moistened nugget, and I'm afraid for it as to what you're going to do to it.
I've actually been pretty merciful with the Mosin this time around.
Have you?
I've not obrezed it. I've not done anything.
I will literally be the judge of that, Dave. I think if you can shorten a rifle in a game, they should make you actually hacksaw the barrel like a mini game. There's that floating butt again. You'll pardon the expression. Recoil should be back and then up as your body reacts to it, not like this. Is that a juice box?
Yeah, you gotta have your tactical juice.
What's next? Tube of Pringles?
The posts in the scope very much look a little work in progress as well.
Yes. The way they just sort of float in midair and don't connect.
It's like a halfway point between Tarkov's Mosin scope and the earlier Hell Let Loose Mosin scope that really was just lines on a screen.
I mean, it's the correct post and bar reticle. It's just kind of not integrated properly with the scope itself.
Always makes me laugh in games like this. Weapons like the Mosin is like the great equalizer. It's cheap. It can like knock out someone heavily armored. You can go from running around naked with a Mosin to carrying thousands of dollars of equipment and leaving one angry enemy player on the ground.
Running around naked with a Mosin, the Dave Jewett story. I don't know if that'll fit on the cover of your autobiography, but... Well, I'm afraid I've already groaned a bit at this one. Now, the base gun looks pretty good. MP5 SD, much better than that dreadful COD one. The pistol brace stock thing, sorry, not a stock. No one in their right mind is going to buy a pistol brace online. You're not going to put a pistol brace on that. It's a very specific US legal thing, and it looks rubbish, I'm afraid. Sorry, people with pistol braces. But you know, all the important recognition features, the sights, shape of the gun, the mag well. We've even got the HK sling clip on the left side. Sig Sauer MPX. Here is one. Don't have an optic on this one, but the stock extended. Now these are very configurable. This fore end is obviously replaceable. Barrel lengths can be changed. Stocks can be changed. So we give the usual leeway for that. So this is actually looking pretty good. I think the magazine well might be even more enormous than it is on the real thing. So this is a deliberate design feature. The magazine well is gaping, quite frankly. It's very much like a gamer gun, a competition gun, and it really, like, you can almost put a magazine in any old how and it will find its way in. So that's a design feature. It looks a little bit too wide. Oh, it's getting a bit crazy. Now I've seen various mods of MPXs with long barrels, long handguards. Mag looks a bit small. As you saw just now, MPX mags are huge. Really wide, really thick. That looks more like an MP5 size mag.
I don't know about you, but I feel like that sound effect does not match the MPX. I don't know if that's placeholder because it's beta, but it sounds like really loud and chunky.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's definitely punchier, but it's still, as it says in the game, it's 9x19, same as the MP5. It should sound pretty much like an MP5. I haven't put any rounds through an MPX, but there'll be a slight tone difference from the gas system that's in the MPX, clanking back and forth, but the report of the firearm is way louder than that, so it should sound more like the MP5 than it does. Now this is an interesting one. We have several Type 85s. None of them are this. But of course it's like M1, M4, whatever. It can refer to different bits of kit, and it does. So the Chinese Type 85, as far as I know, looks a lot like this, but we don't have one to show you or to compare. Recoil patterns in this game are a little unusual, and it's very evident with this. We're not getting consistent recoil. It's like jumping to a different point every time we pull the trigger, or the time the gun fires, like it's an artificial dispersion mechanism, which I think, as I've said before, is it's only going to happen if you're not holding it into the shoulder and you're just like freewheeling it, because you get a lot of leverage with, even if you have two hands, which is why techniques were developed for pushing out on a sling or pushing and pulling with your two hands to try to claw back some stability that you lose when you can't put the thing in the shoulder. That's the vibe I get from a lot of the automatic weapons in this game, which would be great if the gun didn't have a stock on it. That would be somewhat realistic. I get the need to, you have to allow for upgrades to actually work, unless you just go cosmetic only or whatever. But I might lean more toward having guns without stocks, which is kind of artificial in itself, because they do. And you fit one and you get stability that way. And if you get different stocks, they do behave differently. You know, a wire stock is different to a strut-based side-folding stock, is different to a buffer tube stock, is different to a solid stock. They have different angles of drop, different lengths of pull, different levels of wobble. So there are ways to make real-life stocks give you variety in a game. But I get that in a Tarkov-esque shooter like this, you've got to induce some rubbishness to then tame it with upgrade parts. I do get that. Thank you for watching, guys. Those were guns of Arena Breakout Infinite. Hope you found that interesting. If you can, please do go and check out a new app called History of Weapons and War. You'll see Royal Armouries material on there without adverts, and lots of other great weapon and war related YouTubers are over there as well. Otherwise, you know where our website is, our social media channels, and do come and visit the museum here at Leeds, or the one at Fort Nelson, or there's a Tower of London as well. Whatever happens, we'll see you again here next week.